BRB UK. Worse teeth, better accents.
Hello and welcome to episode 582 of BRB UK. I am Coleman. Hi. No Dan this week. He has been called off for work, but I do have a trusty Timothy Hibbs.
Oh, I'm trusty now, am I?
Trusty Tim Hibbs, that's what we call him.
Makes me sound like a steed.
You are a trusty steed, Tim.
You're not riding me, Coleman.
Bad attitude.
And
yes,
you can buy me some horse armor, though. That'd be good.
I'll buy you some hay and you'll enjoy it, damn it.
Okay.
And get you a nice little nose bag. Brush your shiny, glossy grey coat. Anyway, yes. Dan, he got pulled at the last minute, unfortunately, so we are doing this sans Dan. But podcast time. We have video games to talk about, and me and Tim have a couple of those contractually obligated video games to talk about because we got sent a couple of review codes. And Tim, I'm going to start with you because I need to know, and you are the man to tell me, why everyone on my Steam friends list are all playing is it Balatro?
Balatro, I believe so. And I had to look up what that meant, by the way. Before we get into what the game is, I had to look up what it meant because I didn't know what that phrase meant. And been seeing it everywhere and people praising the game, etc. But apparently that is a jester.
It's fun to say.
Or a fool, or a kind of court jester type thing. But I think that's in reference to the fact that there are jokers in the game, and that's where it's kind of referencing that type of thing, basically. So, yes. Right. This game, I'm going to start with the few downsides first. We'll start on that front. But generally, it is a poker roguelike game. And I'll get into exactly how that shapes out in a minute. But it is co-opting of a few poker terms into a non-pokery game, even though there's poker at the heart of the game. But on the slight downside, I've been playing this on Switch as I was providing a review code on Switch, or as I requested a review code on Switch. And I would say a lot of the interface and stuff like that is a bit small on the Switch. Like some of the text is a bit hard to read, and not helped by the fact that some of it is yellow on white. And so I actually, when I was first learning the game, I had to put it on the large screen just to kind of sort of get used to some of the way things worked and some of the information that it was trying to tell me. That's a bit hard to read on the small screen. Although I've noticed that may be a trend that maybe not other people are picking up on. I don't know if that's just me. Maybe I need a trip to the opticians because that was my criticism of a game last week as well. So maybe that's just me. I'm not sure. But my other main criticism of the game, and this is a much bigger worrying thing, is this game is a major time suck. It is highly, highly addictive and comes with a health warning. This game will lose you sleep. It will lose you time. When the PR person behind the game sent me the code for the game, they said, "I'm sorry to disrupt all your productivity for the rest of the week." And I was like, that's an odd warning to send with a review code. Thank you very much, though. This game will eat all of your time. I'm not sure it will steal your lunch money, but it will definitely take some of your time away from you. That's because it is a brilliantly well-made game. It's quite small in scope. As I said, it's a poker roguelike, and it's co-opting some poker terms and misusing some of them. And it kind of talks about the chips and and you get a multiplier and stuff like that. And the way the base game works is that the chips are amassed by the value of the cards that you play. So if you're playing, say, two pairs and they're twos and fours, that will be less valuable than playing aces and kings, because it goes to the number value of each card up to 10, and then face cards are all worth 10, except for aces are worth 11 points, basically. So that's your kind of score type thing that it counts as chips. And then you have a multiplier that's based on the complexity of the hand that you're playing. So in poker, it follows the kind of poker ranking of hands, and that's where poker really comes into it, and you're playing poker hands to do that. But the sort of ranking for that, so you're going down from like 5 of a kind, royal flush, 4 of a kind, all the way down to 3 of a kind, 2 pair, and a pair. So the higher up that ranking you are, the higher your multiplier is. You can then fudge both of those things because you get to play a certain number of hands per round, and you get a certain number of discards as well. So you can play a hand up to 5 cards, or you can discard up to 5 cards. And you start with a certain base amount of hands and discards, but then you can fudge all of those things I've just said initially with kind of joker cards, which you can have up to 5 of, although you can actually have a joker that fudges the amount of jokers that you can have in play as well. But you have up to 5 joker cards, and there's a massive variety of those joker cards. I think there's something like 150 in the game. I haven't encountered all of them myself yet, but there'll be things that like might give you an extra discard, or might allow you to play more hands, or might affect your multiplier, or might affect the number of chips you have as well, sort of thing. So all of those things like can be fudged around with the jokers. There's also celestial cards which will upgrade the hand complexity. So the pair or the 2 pair, you can upgrade how valuable those are based on the number of planetary cards you have, and they have a different level, and you can keep on ranking up those levels, so that you could just have it where 2 pair is actually worth more than a full house or 3 of a kind, even though it's ranked below it. Because you've leveled it up, it will be worth more on that run, basically. And if you lose all of your if you lose at any time, you crash out and sort of go out. But you unlock, like in a roguelite type thing situation, you unlock different things. Some of the things you can unlock are different decks, and those decks affect some of your starting stats. And that, again, that can fudge some of your things. And the initial ones is you get 1 more hand, or you get 1 more discard. And so you can have a red deck initially that gives you an extra discard. You can have a blue deck that gives you an extra hands, basically. And then there's various different things.
Doctor, if you
yeah, and then there's various different things that can give you different things as you go. Not all of them are necessarily positive. So initially, there's some of them are positive, but some of them might give you 1 less hand and make it harder. But there's usually some sort of trade-off and stuff like that as well. But then as you go through the game, you're trying to really rack up that multiplier, and you can have things that add to the multiplier, and you can have things that times the multiplier, but you're generally trying to make it so that each hand that you play is more valuable. There's also a kind of boss round every 3 rounds. So, and they as I said, they co-op some terms, and there's big blinds and stuff like that. So, blinds that are the kind of is the target that you have to reach in points. So the multiplier times the score and the chips, and you have to kind of reach that goal in the number of hands per round. But then each 3 rounds there'll be an extra kind of thing that you have to overcome. So one of the most common ones are all of a certain suit will be disregarded in that round for scoring purposes. So if you play a full house, which is 3 of a kind and 2 of a kind, you might play 3 aces, but because all diamonds don't count this round, it will still count as a full house, but that diamond card won't be scored. So you won't get the 11 points that you would normally get for playing that ace, basically. So it makes it harder to amass points in that round. And they change, and they can change up, and they change differently. There's also kind of rarer cards that kind of you can add more playing cards to your deck. So that's why I mentioned 5 of a kind, because you could unlock another ace or another king that you could add to your deck. And then you can upgrade individual cards so that they have a greater chip value, or that they add to your multiplier. But some of those will be a trade-off, like there'll be glass versions of a card. So they'll be extra valuable in multiplier and in chips, but there's a 1 in 4 chance that they will break when you use them, basically. So you have to be a bit tactical about when you use them and when you're doing. There's other cards that if they stay in your hand, they will add to your multiplier and stuff like that as well. So it's like it is helpful if you are aware of poker and you've played poker before, and even if it's a more simpler version of poker like Texas Hold'em, there is like an advantage to knowing the poker hands, but you can always look those up if you're confused about the ranking of the poker hands and stuff like that. So it isn't like an inherent definite need to be an expert at poker to be able to play this game, but it does kind of feed into the ranking of the hands, and it does help with the knowledge of doing that and getting into that to start with. But yeah, like you can go all the way through the game, and you have to play like 8 antes, as they call them, which is the different sets of 3 rounds. And once you get to that stage, it kind of that's the kind of final stage. But you can then go on from that and just go straight into an endless mode. There's also a challenge mode to unlock where if you play with 5, if you win and get through those 8 rounds, those 8 antes, you can actually unlock a challenge mode if you've done it with 5 different decks. So you have to play with different things going on to actually kind of do that. I still haven't got to that stage yet, despite playing it all week and playing it for quite some time and losing a bit of sleep in the process. But yeah, it's just an excellently designed game. The UI kind of gives you some nice little feedback. It's a bit plain in things, but generally functional. And I should have said on the downside, music-wise, the music's serviceable, but nothing really. But it doesn't really need to be to kind of make the game what it is.
Right.
But the UI is a bit plain. The one little flashy thing it does, it gives you like really good feedback. Like you'll know when a particular joker is giving you an extra multiplier and stuff like that, because it rattles and has the number come up underneath it. Likewise, you'll know when you're doing well, because the little bar of color behind the chips and multiplier will kind of go on fire when you're getting a really high score. Usually when you're getting a score that's enough to get you through that round in one hand. And you kind of, at first when you're getting into it and you're unlocking more jokers as you go and stuff like that, and unlocking more decks and other things. But it's easy to kind of get to the point where you're like, I'm invincible. I'm absolutely unstoppable in this game. And then the very next round, you come up against an ante that gives you a really hard kind of qualifier, like all of your hands, all of the subsequent cards that are dealt to you are dealt face down, and you just have to guess what their value and what their suit is, basically, and stuff like that. But yeah, like it's a really well-designed game. It's kind of, simple but effective. I don't know if you've heard it. Part of the buzz around the game is the fact that I think it made $1 million within an hour of going on sale. I've heard other things that, it made all its money back in a few days of going on sale. It's apparently sold 250,000 copies and all that type of stuff. But all of that success is well-deserved just because it's a really well-designed, really well executed game that kind of knew what it was going for and has done that really, really well. As you can probably tell, it gets a really high recommendation from me. My only concern really was that the information was a bit small to read on the Switch screen. But it's available on everything. It's available on PC. I don't know if it's Steam Deck verified, but I imagine it would look good on the Steam Deck.
Yes,
because that's got a bit more clarity. Yeah, because that's higher clarity, it probably isn't as much of a problem reading the text, even if it is a bit small. But that was my only concern on the Switch. But yeah, but Xbox, it's available on Xbox Series X and S. It's available on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PlayStation 5, and Steam, I believe.
That's basically all the platforms.
All the platforms. It would be suitable for mobile, and I don't know if that's in their plans in the future, but like it's good. It's £12.79. As I said, I got a review code, but I would have happily paid this if I'd have known how much I would have loved it. In fact, it's one of those things where I feel a bit guilty having asked for a review code because I kind of want to give the developer some money. So I hope there's some like DLC or something at some stage so that I can do so. I might even double dip at some stage and buy another version just so I can do that.
If you really want to throw your money away, then go and buy a version on the PS5.
But as you can probably tell from my description in our barrel ratings, where we give up to 5, it is definitely a 5 out of 5. It is a very strong recommendation. Whatever system you can get it on, I would do so. I would say it's probably best suited to the Steam Deck. or the Switch, even though, as I said, it's a bit hard to read on the Switch. It's a really good game to play on the go. It's a really good game to second screen because there's no like time limit or anything that you need to do quickly. But yeah, highly, highly recommended. Balatro, absolutely excellent. Pick it up wherever you can and enjoy it. And although it does come with the caveat of you will lose a lot of time to this game, and I can't see, like, from how much other people have loved it as well, I think that's going to be a general thing, even if you're not a massive fan of poker.
Do you remember back in the lofty days of the Game Boy, the original Game Boy, and it's kind of memed these days, but the sheer amount of peripherals that you could get to stick onto it, battery packs and what have you.
Yeah.
I remember
Magnifier,
specifically the magnifying glass that
Yes.
you'd stick over the top, and some had like little lights inside it.
Yeah.
Maybe you could get something like that for the Switch for old people that
I
refuse to get glasses.
I think it's called a pair of glasses, though, in this day and age.
No, it's for people that refuse to get glasses, like Bruce Forsyth back in the day. That's why his cards were so big on that show. You just wouldn't get his eyes checked.
Could have play your cards. I could just get one of those massive things you get, for like looking at diamonds and stuff.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah,
or them the little precision glasses. Like in Toy Story 2. All right. I have been returning to an old favorite. And by old favorite, I don't mean one of my old favorites, but one I'm aware of. But originally, I'll just get straight to it. There is a remake of Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, which is handily called Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons Remake. So you can differentiate between the two.
Wow.
Now, this is a game that I played originally on the PlayStation 3, I believe.
Yep.
And this one's quite noteworthy because it was a BAFTA award-winning game, and it kind of catapulted. Well, it was a first stepping stone to catapult Joseph Fares into the limelight, who's one of our favorite game directors and directors of any kind, thanks to some outbursts he's had over the years. Yeah. Lovely guy. Really like him.
But nice outbursts on the Game Award shows and stuff. But yeah.
Yes. But anyway, so that original version was directed by Joseph Fares. He went off to do the A Way Out, and I forget what the one where you played the two toys, but you were a married couple that were turned into toys and you were getting a divorce. And
was that Unravel or something like that?
Might be that. That was one I really wanted to play. The thing is, I love his games and I love the ideas of his games, but you have to play them in co-op multiplayer, and no one ever wants to play them with me. So I never get round to them. This is one that I started playing back in the day, and it has two different modes. You can either play this in co-op with a friend, or you can control these two brothers at the same time with one controller, and you only have two controls for them. It's movement with a stick or a grip with the trigger, and then there's some camera movements as well. But that's it. That's it for the controls. So you could do that yourself and control both brothers, which I started doing. Went, I like the idea of this game. I must come back to this in multiplayer, and never did. Went on to win awards, and it's always one that I've been meaning to go back to. And lo and behold, when a review copy of the remake jumped up, and it's been all redone and beautifully polished up in Unreal Engine 5, I thought I have to get onto this. So bear in mind, I haven't completed the original game. I've only played a small amount of it. I can't tell you as to what changes were made within the story, or if any at all. That's not something I have a knowledge of, just the remake version of the game. However, that said, it is a beautiful looking game. I've been playing this on 3 different versions of PC at the moment. I've been playing this on the Steam Deck, which it's serviceable. I've been playing this on my laptop, which is kind of like high spec, and then I've been playing this on my desktop, which is like ultra spec, and it's worked pretty well for the most part. Although in one section, like lighting details and things threw off my laptop a bit and crashed, and I had to reset it. But otherwise, it kind of works. But each time I move the progress to a different platform, it changes over the graphic settings from the previous platform to the new one, so it doesn't alter every time. So I have to go in and change it every time. But there's an auto detect thing, so it's not too bad. Anyway, the game itself, I've kind of prattled on about all the changes and things about the actual game. If you're not aware, it's it's a narrative puzzle type game, but it's a very light puzzle game. It's more about the narrative of you playing as two different brothers. One called, if I've got the names right, I did
Bro
write them down.
1, Bro 2.
Well, it's difficult because it's that kind of thing of they don't talk English. They all kind of
Right.
it's meant to be like an outworldly language, and it's more like noises, and it's kind of like watching an episode of Mr. Bean. You get the idea from movements and actions rather than what they're saying. But from what I got, the two brothers' names are Naya and Nai. So you are playing as these two boys who their father is sick, and you've taken them to a doctor, and the doctor's basically gone, hey, there's a treatment, but you have to go to this far off mystical land to go and get said treatment, and therefore your quest begins. So you start off carting your father in a wagon, and then once you dropped him off to the doctors, then you're off on your mystical adventures through lands with trolls and giants and other mystical creatures and things. Now, again, this is a review copy that I was sent, so they sent me a big old NDA of things I can and cannot talk about, and one of the reasons being is because this is a game that pre-exists. Not everyone has played that game, so for those that haven't played it, they want to keep certain story beats under wraps for people that are discovering for the first time. And they basically said something along the lines of, hey, just so you know, you can keep the magic alive, anything that happens from this specific point with all these specific things, don't talk past that point. I'm like,
right.
Oh, I didn't get to that point in the original game. That's really ruined it for me. So that was quite amusing to me. And then when I got to that point, I went, wow, this would have been much more impactful had I not read a PDF file before I went into this. So that was interesting. But yes, it's a very enjoyable game. It's quite short because it's all about the narrative. I finished playing it this morning actually on my way to work. Just got to the end part now, polished it off. It was a lot shorter than I realized it was going to be. There wasn't really any kind of puzzles that I got stuck with in the game. I enjoyed it all the way, even though there's some it seems like a very nice, relaxing, chill type of game in so as much that you actually forget what the mission is sometimes. That you're off to save your very sick father. And then all of a sudden, like it goes some really dark places out of nowhere, which I kind of like in a story like this. Yeah. It's kind of like that Studio Ghibli thing of you go, look at all the whimsy and the magical and all this kind of stuff. And this person's dead. And you're like, oh.
Yeah. All right then.
That's affected me more than I realized it would.
Yeah.
But yes, it's very interesting. It's a great game. If you've not played it before, this is now available. I think it just came out yesterday as we're recording. So this is now available on PC, PlayStation 5, and the Xbox Series X and S. It's £15.99 at this moment, and I think that's a pretty good price to be paying for this game. Like I say, it's quite a short game, but if you like your artsy-fartsy narrative games, as I do, then this is one for you, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time playing it. I'm really glad I finally got to play through a brother's Tale of Two Sons, even if I started with the remake. But now I'm tempted to go back and play the older game to kind of see how they stack up against each other, especially as it is so short, you know? Not so short, but short enough to do that.
Yeah. I have a question, Mr. Coleman.
Yes.
One thing I didn't quite get from what you were saying, and I don't know if I just missed it or what was going on, but is it co-op or is there a co-op element as it can be
played? Yes, you can play it on your own or you can play it in co-op.
Entirely in single player though as well, yeah?
Yes, because it's a much more kind of, because the original game was the kind of catalyst to these other co-op games that were being made by Joseph Fares. And this one's a bit more simple compared to those later games, so it is an easier one to be playing on with one single pad, because as I said, there's just a stick movement. Either one brother's the left stick, one brother's the right stick, and then it's a trigger for action, and that's it. That's the extent of the controls. It's very Joy-Con-esque, you know?
And is that online co-op as well then, or just local?
That I don't know. I think it's just couch co-op. Give me a second. I will just check on the features.
And while you're doing that, I was just what I looked up before I got a bit confused because Unravel doesn't seem to be from the same studio because it's a EA thing, and I didn't think this was.
I don't think it's the same studio, but it's the same director.
Right. Okay. But there was Unravel 1 and Unravel 2. But yeah.
I don't. No, that's a different game.
That's
a different game completely.
Okay.
You're thinking, yeah,
Right,
that's
that's
the
what I was
thing.
thinking.
That was the
seems to be a
guy
different thing.
tearing up on stage with the little doll.
Right. Yes.
I remember that one.
I also at the Game Awards, I think, but that was a different person, different time. Okay. Yeah.
Anyway, yes, it's local co-op only.
Right. Okay.
And single player, but that makes sense because you have to have specific, time placed input, so it makes sense
Yeah.
to keep that local co-op only. But yeah, really good. Not the same studio, I believe. I think it's a different one, and it's not got Joseph Fares behind the directing this time round. But yeah, really good in way of remakes. Although pre-launch was very funny in the graphical department because there were a lot of glitches and things. But once we hit release date and the day one patch went in, it's like, oh, okay, that's all fixed now. Because originally I booted this up on the on Steam Deck just out of curiosity. So I'm going to play this when I get home. Let's boot it up on the Steam Deck, see how it works. Like, oh no, it does not like that. And then today when I went back to Steam Deck, I went, oh, okay, no, it works now.
Well, between this Dark Forces and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it seems like a good week for remakes and remasterings.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth isn't a remake; it's a sequel, Tim.
It needs another word. It's a redo. It's a do-over.
It's a rebirth of
it's
the
a
timeline.
mulligan.
It's a remake of the timeline. But anyway, yeah, my copy just arrived today. I am pumped for that. So we have to get through this so I can go off and do victory noises to myself. That's what I do. I was going to play it on the soundboard, but I can't find it. Anyway, right, we should jump to the news because we've got a few big things we need to be talking about. First one, because I know you're hyped about this, Tim. Pokemon Presents. They announced that they were going to do one of these in the last Nintendo partner showcase direct thing. They went, hey, next week, Pokemon. Tim, we're doing this for you, buddy. We know you love Pokemon. Right. It's Pokemon time, baby. Got to catch them all. Am I right, Tim?
I mean, it's fine.
Pikachu, Know what I'm saying, Tim? Squirtle Squad. Yeah. Get your shades on, Tim. Squirtle Squad. Pokemon, Tim.
Yeah.
Pokemon. I need Pokemon sounds on my board. I just realized I have none of those either.
Yeah, no.
This is not a good start to the day.
No. You're failing in soundboards.
Yes. Okay, so the Pokemon Presents for February, they had a couple of, and this is the thing as well. The announcement was because we're hitting Pokemon Day. I think they should have saved some stuff and come out with some bigger announcements because this felt very, why? Why did we do this? Why didn't you just do this on the direct?
Right, yeah.
They seem to do, every time they do these Pokemon things, unless they've got a big mainline game to be talking about, and the last time they did that, it seemed quite rushed out the door anyway, they sort of go, hey, here's a mobile game you didn't even know existed. We've got an update for it. Great, cool.
Oh, good.
You still playing Pokemon Go? No. Okay, well, here's an update for it. Cool, thanks, guys. Do you know what Pokemon Cafe is? No idea. What Pokemon Sleep? Like, I did,
like
just
what?
Give me some good stuff. And this was one of those. It felt very filler. So starting off, we had it's the anniversary of Pokemon Red and Green, which are the original releases of Pokemon in Japan. And to celebrate, over in Scarlet and Violet, which was the janky-ass mainline Pokemon game that came out not last year. Was it last year or the year before? I think it was last year.
Might be last year.
Yeah, I think it was last year. No, I think it was the year before. Screw it. Doesn't really matter.
No. Who cares?
They have a thing in there called Tera Raids where you fight giant Pokemon. That they've been doing this for a while now. You have like a boss Pokemon. It's an absolute giant thing, and you can capture it. And specific ones can turn into
a massive Pokeball.
Yes, big Pokeball grows and you throw it, and then it shrinks down to normal, and then you have cool Pokemon. But they have these crystal abilities, if I remember rightly. They transform into like a crystal Pokemon, but only specific ones have like a proper chrysalis form that makes them look amazing. And this is your chance to catch 3 of the beginning Pokemons in their final evolution forms, so the Gen 1 starters. That'll be right now until the 5th of March. You'll be able to enter an event to catch the mighty Venusaur. From March the 6th, you can get Blastoise until March the 12th. And then on March the 13th until the 17th, you can go for mighty Charizard. Ooh. If I gave an absolute stuff
I
about
like the
this
fact
game,
they're mighty, but hey.
yes. Here's the thing, Tim. I own this Pokemon game. I
Yep.
love Blastoise. He's one of my favorite Pokemon. I really want to go in and get this Pokemon. But
Yep.
because I know how bad the game is and how badly it performs, I'm
You
not
don't
going
care.
to.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite upsetting.
Oh,
Anyway,
they may
that's
have fixed it
available
by
right
now, Coleman.
They haven't.
Oh.
I've even tried emulating it to see if it runs better because people have told me it runs a lot better on PC. It's like, no, it runs a little bit
Tell
smoother.
Nintendo.
I
Very
own
cross
the
with
game, it's fine.
emulators this week. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes, but that's illegal emulation. That's
Okay.
illegally pirating. If you don't know, Tears of the Kingdom, was that it?
Yeah.
That got leaked online before the game came out, and during the pre-order phase of the game, people had illegally downloaded the ROM for it over 1 million times, according to court proceedings. So they're not happy at the moment. I would like to say I own my copy of Pokemon Scarlet, and I was emulating a ripped version of that from. We've spoken about this in the past.
Wouldn't download a Zelda.
It doesn't perform that much better on PC, despite people telling me it does.
Okay.
And the examples that you use on videos online, they're very they're picked and chosen very specifically for like cutscenes and stuff rather than the actual gameplay. And very early on. Anyway, carrying on, Pokemon Go. Remember that? Still going, Tim.
Just about.
Still Pokemon going.
I know people
and
that still
I believe,
play it-ish, but not many.
Well, there's a new collaborative event that is going on because of the new animation of Pokemon.
Right.
And this is going on from March the 5th till March the 11th. And as part of the event, you will be able to catch specific Pokemon who I'm looking at the names for the first time and don't think I can say them. Charjadet, Armarouge, and Ceraluge? That sounds right.
Ceraluge.
I have no idea. I think those were the starters in Scarlet and Violet.
Okay.
Yeah, they're available in Pokemon Go. Go, Pokemon, go. What did they say? Pokemon, go to the polls. Tim, Pokemon, go to the polls. Pokemon, go to the voting stations. Vote Hillary. This is a real thing.
Okay.
This is a real thing that happened, Tim. Let's remember the days when Pokemon Go launched.
I just want to know why is it a big thing that Pikachu's wearing a Caps hat? Which makes it sound weirder than it is.
I don't know. I remember when Pokemon Go came out and I really wanted a Pikachu and I was going out and I was trying to get a Pikachu. And then when it was rocking around Christmas and I still didn't have a Pikachu, they're like, good news, we've added Pikachus everywhere in Santa hats. And they will always wear a Santa hat. Like, but I don't want a Santa hat Pikachu. I want a regular Pikachu.
Why do you hate Christmas, Coleman? Is it because it stole part of your name?
Because if that's exactly the reason. It's actually my real name is Christmas Coleman. I was named after a really bad Bond girl. In a movie that came out after I was born. Anywho. Next up, one that might catch your interest. I don't know, Tim. We've spoken about Pokemon trading card game in the past. We've gone to the
now I'm more
toy
interested.
fairs and we've done events and things for Pokemon card game in the past. You might be interested about this.
Yep.
To my knowledge, we had a Game Boy Color version of the trading card game, which is like a cult favorite.
Yep.
We had a tie-in website, so if you bought the cards, you could, the Royal Wii.
Right, it wasn't on the Wii.
No.
Okay.
There was a website that you could play the game online if you scanned in the cards, but it never performed well. I remember trying to play that. I think there was an app on phones and tablets, but it never worked properly. Now we're finally getting a dedicated mobile app to play Pokemon trading card game on the go called, aptly named Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket.
Person in this advert was very excited about opening
They were
shiny.
very excited. I am not. I'm a kind of lapsed Pokemon fan from my teenager days. I dip my toes in every now and then. I've never really been a fan of Pokemon TCG, as I have to remember to call it, because I remember us getting told off by PR for that once by calling it a trading card game. And
I
I'm
mean,
not
it
a
is.
massive fan of mobile games, especially ones that are always online. And this looks like it's got always online written all over it.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I want to play this? Why do I want to play this, Tim?
Because they got you, Coleman. You like opening packs of things, and there's lots of pictures of people opening them on their phones by swiping across. It's like Pokemon Tinder.
I think we need a BRB UK Pokemon TCG Pocket. Let's all dip our toes in at the same time and see if we catch on for this.
Yeah.
And it's more likely than us actually playing like Sea of Thieves or Skull and Bones or something together, because it's just on your phone. Just do it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Probably fine. Okay, and the last one, that's going to come out some point this year on iOS and Android, so keep your eyes open. I'm sure they'll do a beta and all that kind of stuff. Sign up for it on the Play Store or Apple Store or whatever you do. I don't know. I haven't done mobile stuff for a while. Probably since Pokemon Go. Okay.
I tried to download a mobile game today through Netflix. It's like there's a Rainbow Six game that just came out on it, and it looked interesting and weird, but apparently it won't work on my phone. So I was like, oh, well, I guess I won't be doing that then.
Need a better phone.
Why it didn't work on my phone.
Get a better
Android.
phone, Tim. Get a better phone.
Pixel 8 Pro
what?
thing.
Oh, I got Pixel 6. I'm going to see if it works on mine, then I'll laugh if it does.
Yeah.
I don't even want to play this game, but I've got it. Maha! Right. Lastly, on the Pokemon presentation, what do they call it? Pokemon Presents. Should remember that. It's got the alliteration going. Pokemon Legends Z-A. So if you remember, there was
like
Pokemon
presents, Coleman. It's like you've got presents. It's like Christmas Coleman all over again.
That's right. That's why they named it that.
Yeah.
So we didn't get any gameplay. We just got a pre-rendered trailer thingy. And there's some speculation as to what's going on here. But if you remember, we had Pokemon Legends Arceus, which was a kind of experiment, which took off so well, this open world Pokemon game that predated any of the Pokemon
you liked
games
that
in
one,
storyline.
No? More than the one we talked about before.
I liked some of it. The man called Rick was on the show where he really enjoyed it.
Right.
I couldn't stick with it. And after playing Power World, I'm like, there's a lot of Arceus in this, but done better because it's not janky as all hell, even though it's quite janky. No, it's not even that. It's like the way it just worked, you know? It wasn't a massive strain because you've thrown it in an open world and had to make it completely empty and all this kind of stuff. It was very odd. But we're getting a follow-up to that now.
Right, yeah.
And it looks like it's going to take place in the city of Luminos City. That is the city in the Kalos region. And because it is post Pokemon Blue and Red, I have no idea if I'm saying the right things. So I'm an old school fan.
Okay.
But this has people excited because Pokemon Legends Arceus did go down quite well. So Z-A should be, they've got more time to cook. They've got more time to expand. But also, this is coming sometime in 2025, which has led a lot of rampant speculation to, could this be
a launch title?
A launch title for the Switch 2 or just a title for the Switch 2 in general? I think you could possibly be looking at the first generational game between the two consoles.
That would make sense.
Dual release.
Although you would have thought that if that was the case, they'd be better placed to try and get this out in time for Christmas and then do a re-release on the Switch 2, no? But
well, we say 2025. You don't know if it's 2025 Christmas.
That's true. It might
holiday
be a
season.
While. Yep,
mm-hmm.
could be later in the year. I would imagine it's early. Well, for the launch of the actual console, which I imagine would be earlier in the year. But
Pokemon games do, if I remember rightly, I don't know. I don't have the facts to back this up in front of me, but I think Pokemon games do tend to release earlier in the year because you want them ready for like the summer holidays and things.
Yes, and I think the current rumors are that the Switch 2 will release in this fiscal year, so i.e. before April 2025. That's the current scuttlebutt. I don't know if that's necessarily going to work out, but then if that was the case, then this would probably come out alongside it. You think? The
other thing I've heard is like we could have well had the Switch 2 already, but plans are kind of being held to
I didn't even notice it.
To stop scalping and stock shortages is the idea. So they won't
Okay.
be super prepared for this release. But again, you read Biz Insider so many times, you don't know what's true and what's not. Industry insiders. I know. My uncle works at Nintendo.
Insiders?
I'm an industry insider. All right. On a darker note, unfortunately, there are more layoffs. They keep on going across the industry, and we had 2 huge ones this week. Some of the biggest studios being affected. The first off, big old publishing house, EA, Electronic Arts. They announced that they're cutting 5% of their workforce, which is roughly 670 jobs.
Yeah.
And also, it seems like. So there's been internal emails and things that have been leaked out or sent out in general. And it looks like EA are looking to cut back on their licensed IPs and go for more stuff that they own in-house because there's less licensing fees involved. We've seen that already affected with last year. Respawn announced that they're working on a first-person shooter or third-person shooter. I think it was first-person. Yeah, sorry, first-person shooter. In the Star Wars universe, alongside the Jedi Survivor type
Rumored
games.
to be a Mandalorian first-person shooter, but not confirmed.
That's now, we haven't had confirmation on any details other than first-person shooter, Respawn. That's now been cancelled. But also, EA are working on Star Wars and Marvel games. They've got that Iron Man game in the works. They've got that Black Panther game with there was that world. Is EA doing the one where it's Black Panther and Captain America in World War II in Paris?
I think that was the one. I'm not 100% on that, but I think that was where that...
Where it's like T'Challa's grandfather.
And again, I don't know if that had been confirmed or whether that was just
No, that we saw a trailer and everything,
okay.
But I didn't know if that was EA or not. So I think those are too far in development to be hitting the chopping block just yet. But we don't know what's going on. But it looks like EA is going to be focusing more on the stuff that they already own, or already have paid up, rather than costly licenses going forward.
Also, the other big license that they'd already strayed away from, obviously, was FIFA. We've seen their EA FC thing. But
and they were announced they were doing that before. The COVID pandemic and recession, all this kind of stuff going around,
I'm really curious as to how that's gone, though, because I don't know about you, I kind of kept an eye on the game, and that seemed to get heavily discounted much earlier than it normally would, from what I saw as well. But I don't know if that's just happens to be the case, and I don't know if they were able to do that because they're not paying the license fee as much. But it just seemed to go on sale before Christmas, which it rarely ever does, and a heavily, heavily discounted price. So, I don't know if that did or didn't go well for them, but it seemed to be just from that sort of anecdotal kind of evidence that it might not have gone as well as they'd hoped, maybe. But
right. The other one, which really hit hard as well, PlayStation announced that they've had to do a significant round of layoffs, which affects 8% of their global PlayStation workforce. That's around 900 staff. And the studios that are affected include Insomniac, Naughty Dog, Guerrilla, Firesprite, and the most significant one is PlayStation's London studio, as that looks like it's getting closed now.
Yeah.
And the reason why that's probably hitting quite hard for old Timmy here is there was a big game being planned in PlayStation London studio, some huge narrative VR game that was meant to be taking place in a futuristic London.
No. I'll correct you there because, PlayStation London's heavily associated with VR. They made Blood and Truth, and they made the kind of... the London Heist, which was part of the kind of VR Worlds. Yeah, the PlayStation Worlds VR World thing. So they were heavily associated with VR, but the rumor was at least that the game that they were working on at the moment was a co-op game based in London, a fantasy game, but apparently wasn't VR. I don't know if it could have been
I didn't know that.
A VR game at the point in the future. And this is one of the things I'm confused about with this news because we don't know, and perhaps we'll never know, but getting into the world of speculation, is this something where they wanted to move away from VR and Sony didn't like the fact they did that because they felt they didn't support that? And then when this hasn't worked out, have they gone, okay, well, we're just canning the whole studio then? Or is it the opposite way round where Sony pushed them into doing something and didn't like the results, or didn't think they were enacting on the thing, the will of Sony, and so have canned them for that reason? It's difficult to know. And as I said, perhaps we'll never know. But I'm personally really sad about this because I really would have liked to see a PSVR 2 version of Blood and Truth. And I really would have liked to see the next thing they were working on in VR. And if the game they were working on would eventually have had some VR support. But as I said, the rumor, or at least from what I've read and heard and stuff, was that they were working on a non-VR title. But yeah, after literally, like, this happened the day after Kev and I put out a new episode of VRB, and I've just been praising Sony for doing some like positive things around the kind of anniversary of the thing. But this really doesn't look good for VR. It's a bad look, just based on them having a heavy association with them. But also we'd seen reductions from Firesprite, who are the ones that made
They were they were doing a huge game as well that was in the works. So
they were rumored. I think they'd been past what's the name? Twisted Metal, which has apparently been canned, and so that's possibly the reason why they'd been reduced. But then Firesprite had been heavily associated with VR as well, because they made Horizon Call of the Mountain, or helped make it as well. And so that's about it.
One also, of the BAFTA nominated VR games of the year.
Yeah, and Sony had already taken out Gorilla Cambridge, and so they'd worked on Rigs, and so that had already gone to the wayside. But this is really bad news for the UK as well, because that's London studio gone, and a significant portion of other things gone. Also, this week, another game studio that's associated with PSVR, Supermassive, had massive layoffs as well. So, like, all round, this is just optically really bad for PSVR, and a lot of people have been talking about it negatively, even though the studios that have had these losses, and London studio being the main one that's completely gone away, aren't actually associated with the development of VR games at the moment. But optically, it just looks terrible for PSVR 2 at the moment. A lot of people have been kicking off about that, and it, as I said, it doesn't look good. I don't think it's as bad as that kind of makes out to start with, but it certainly doesn't look good, and doesn't look good overall. Setting that to one side for the moment, though, I think the worst news about both of these things, and the Supermassive and everything else, is just the fact that there's a massive glut of people that have lost their jobs. And this is a figure I've plucked from somewhere else, and I can't remember exactly where I heard it, but someone else has said there's been 7,000 job losses in the games industry this year alone. And we're only in February. I mean, at the end of February, and we've had an extra day in February, but still. But that's just sad for the amount of people that's affected. But beyond that as well, we're at a point now where there's so many people in the game industry that are currently unemployed that's going to have a massive, significant effect on those seeking re-employment elsewhere. Like, there are studios that can soak up some of the people that have gone, but I don't think there's enough capacity for the games industry at the moment to soak up all those people. And so, that's a massive concern that we might lose those people entirely from the games industry. But it's just a horrible look for something that has, an industry that has made a massive amount of money from those people's work. And as I said on Threads, like, the CEOs of those companies should be ashamed of their failures, and they have failed the people that are working from them as a result of that. And the bad thing about that is they are financially incentivized to do exactly this, to fire a load of people, and they will make more money from having done that as well. So it's just bad all round, and I feel really sorry for the people that it affects.
As we're seeing more companies along the lines of a Sony, of an EA, looking at ways of cutting costs, not just on people, but restricting budgets, like trying to not. I mean, I remember the Sony financial call not that long ago, and they were talking about how Insomniac went massively over budget for Spider-Man 2 and the ridiculous amount of money it had to make to recoup that cost. Now, it did make that money, but that's one hell of a gamble, and they weren't happy about it, even though they had that success, because all they can see is you've gone over budget and we could have really been screwed over that. So you're going to see more cost cutting. You're going to see more redundancies. You're going to see this keep on going. Probably like you're seeing a lot of companies now stopping the working from home process. They want to keep an eye on their employees. They want to make sure they're working. They're probably going to start moving them into cheaper studios in different parts of the UK, different parts of the US,
or different parts of the world as well. But
different parts of the world, different tax incentive, tax breaks to take advantage of. You're going to see a lot of changes to the video game industry going forward. I saw the thing with Rockstar this week. I don't know if you saw that Rockstar are now getting their employees to come back to the office because they're sick of GTA 6 getting leaked. So,
and I also think they're going back to a 5-day week when they hadn't been working there for a while. But that's because they're into the last kind of the final furlong for getting GTA 6 out the door. And I don't know. I can understand that in a way, but like you said, it's not a good time for game development studio at the moment. But it also seems like a really short-sighted thing. Like it's like we said about Embracer and them like getting rid of a load of studios. Like that saves you money in the short term, but then that's more of a problem in the long term for you to make more money in the long term. And that seems to be the case with Sony. They've already come out and said that there's no big first party titles coming along in the next calendar year or up to April next year. And it's like, what? Like, how did you expect to sell 25 million PlayStations and you've fallen 4 million short? But how did you expect to sell 25 million games when you're not consoles, when you're not producing enough games to justify people doing that, like to invest in your console?
Well, not even that, but at the launch, they couldn't make as many. There were shortages of specific chips. There were shortages of consoles. You couldn't make the things quick enough to. Do you remember the whole thing? Don't know if we've ever touched on this as well. We were always reporting on the Switch Pro that never happened, and it just happened to be an OLED. And then now that time has passed, it turns out, there actually might have been a Switch Pro, and all these leaks and things that were going around in industry insiders, it was legitimate. It's just they didn't have the parts to make it, so they just went OLED.
But I think someone told me that's something to do with like Apple bought a lot of the capacity and just bought up a load of the chips.
Basically,
and just made
Apple
it so
needed
no one
them.
else can.
Microsoft needed them. Apple needed them. Sony needed them. Nintendo needed them. Like it's a very specific chip.
And there's a real bottleneck with making chips and how difficult that is and how many places in the world you can do that and all those sorts of things. So,
We're going to move on for one more bit of news because we don't want to go over today.
Okay,
But Tim has a gaming for good segment that he's added in. So go on, Tim.
I got sent this information, and this is a nicer thing to end on. So this is some good, positive news. And as I said, when we like to shine a light on things in our gaming for good section, this was a good one to do. So ESA Winter 2024 has raised $80,000 for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. The European Speedrunners Assembly, that's ESA, recently held an esports event. I'm not sure why it's labeled an esports event, but anyway, an esports event in Malmö, Sweden. The event raised $85,000 or about £67,000 for the Make-A-Wish International. There were 400 participants and a global online audience that witnessed it as well. Ida Lindholt, one of the ESA organizers, said, "We are grateful to our gamers and the community for uniting behind this very worthy cause. Funds will be used to fulfill wishes for children living with critical illnesses." So it's a really great cause to be doing. Anyone that's not familiar with the Make-A-Wish Foundation and stuff, or Make-A-Wish International as this is. In the kind of stuff that they put out for this, they highlighted one particular one particular person that this is going towards, and one, just as an example of the type of people it's helping. So it was a girl named Naya, and she was having her wish granted thanks to this event. And she's a girl in Denmark who getting her wish granted. And despite being a young child, she hadn't experienced very many happy Christmases of late. In 2020, she lost her grandmother to cancer. The following year, both her and her family had COVID over Christmas. And then in Christmas 2022, she herself was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. So she's had, a terrible few years all at Christmas and kind of
Tim,
had
you better turn this around. You told me
a
that
lot
we're
of her
ending on a happy
Christmases
note here.
Well, it's a happy thing that they're doing is a good thing. But her wish was to have a nice Christmas in a warm and sunny place. And she's just found out that thanks to this event that she's having Christmas 2024, her and her family is going to be able to travel and experience that nice Christmas. They didn't say where, but, in a nice, happy, hot environment. And yeah, that kind of, when I read that the other day, that really kind of touched me in the feels and really kind of got to me a little bit. I won't go into details, but there's more than one of us on the show that has had their life directly affected by cancer. And so this was something that, kind of really got to me. But it's really nice to see, as we said, we like to highlight when gaming can do some good and when gamers come together and do some good for the world. And this is just one of those examples of them doing a really good thing. So I just wanted to say a big congratulations to the European Speedrunner Assembly for coming together and raising so much money for such a good organization. And just go and check out some more details of this. I believe Coleman will put a link in the show notes so that you can check out some more details of this kind of thing. But just congratulations for doing that. And that's a good thing that the gaming industry came together and did this year. So thank you very much.
Check out the Make-A-Wish Foundation if you're in the US and the Make-A-Wish Foundation Worldwide International if you're outside the US. I think it's called like World Wish. I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. We should wrap up and call that a night, I think. So first of all, we like to do a couple of things before we get out of here. We put them on the agenda. First of all, we need to say, hey, go over to tpublic.com/store/BRB if you want to support the show, because there we have merchandise, t-shirts, masks, stickers, cups.
Dan would say his face, but
Dan
it's
says,
not been
buy
good
my
for
face.
marketing. So
My name's Dan. Buy my face. That's how he
buy
talks.
other things other than Dan's face.
Buy Dan face. Show face Dan. Yes. Go over there. Check out the cool merch. I say it's to support the show. Really, it's to support the artists and support the site. Less so BRB UK in general. I ain't seen a penny of those t-shirt sales. They all go into Tim's pocket, and then he goes,
That's not
what
true.
happens. That's true. That's exactly what happens.
No.
Speaking of the crooked man called Tim, he likes to do Tabletop Tuesdays where he pockets all the money from the bar and it doesn't go to any of the bar staff. That's over in the loading bar in Stoke, Newington. Tim, tell us about Tabletop Tuesdays.
Think you're confusing me for the CEO of evil organizations like EA. But anyone doesn't know, each and every Tuesday we do an event called Tabletop Tuesday at the Loading Bar in Stoke Newington. Last week's event was a nice one. It was a real doozy. It was good fun. We gave out double the amount of prizes, I said, not because I made a mistake in announcing the winner. That definitely didn't happen. But we gave out 2 class tables last week, which is a really good prize. It was a really good prize before we gave out 2 of them, but giving away 2 of them was even better, possibly double the fun. But yeah, like air hockey without the air, as I described it last week. But yeah, that was a really good prize, a good fun game. Go check out Clask. But this week's upcoming game is a little game called Honeycombs. It's a kind of fun little tile laying game, can be played cooperatively or competitively. It's a really good fun game. There are more details up on the top left-hand corner of Big Red Barrel, or you can join the over 2,100 members of our meetup group. Search for Tabletop Tuesday on meetup.com, or just come along to the Loading Bar in Stoke Newington on a Tuesday, and you could win your own copy of Honeycombs just for coming along, trying out the game on the evening, and then being entered into the prize draw that we do at the end of the night.
I don't know if this is the right pronunciation of the username, but this is the one I'm going to go with. We have a message on our Discord from Boisterous.
Boisterous.
Like boisterous,
it's going to be
Boise.
But yeah.
But I like to think it's Boise from
Boise.
Horses and Horses.
Considering he's American.
He messaged you, Tim.
Yes.
He said, Tim, thanks for the Clask shouts out on the last podcast. Glad to see it still being played. The Manchester World Tourney, I ended up getting 4th. 16 participants from 8 countries. Not too shabby.
Yeah.
Well done. Well done, Boise from Fools and Horses. I'm glad to hear that the rumours of your death were extremely exaggerated and that you play Clask with magnets.
Yeah.
Miracle. All the miracles. Good. Oh, Tabletop Tuesday. Right, if you have enjoyed this show, you're a weird one, but we love you all the same. You can leave us a review on whatever podcasting platform you're listening to us on. But also, you can go over to bigredbarrel.com. That is our website. That's where we host the podcast. That's where we have articles sometimes and other things. We'll get back to that. But also, there's a link there to our Discord. You can go over there and talk to fine folks like ourselves. I'm about to put some new PC codes up. I thought I'd wait until the weekend to give everyone a fair shout where I've announced it on the podcast first. But that'll be on the PC section of Discord. We also have our social media accounts. We are available on Facebook, on Twitter, on X, at Big Red Barrel. And we're also available on YouTube. If you're watching this here video, you already know we're on Big Red Barrel TV.
And Threads.
If you didn't know, go check it out. Give us a like, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon, and you'll be notified when our videos go up. Not just this video, but like VRB or shorts that might go up, because YouTube told us we should be putting out shorts, which we did once. It went okay, I guess. But apparently we need to have like 9 million people watching our YouTube shorts that we don't make. So we should probably do some of those at some point.
Eat my shorts.
Speaking of shorts. We need content for shorts. So, Tim, we're going to have 2 questions from the audience.
Oh.
Because we've got a backlog of them and we need to get through them.
Okay. Right, yeah.
I'm going to start with, it's Ed, who says, are there any games you used to love but have recently gone back and thought they were silly or not fun, Tim?
I'm not going to say Rise, even though you want me to. I'm not going to rise to it, Coleman. Not going to do it.
You do want to. I'm going to get a rise out of you one day, Tim.
I don't know for that one. I remember there was a game, a football game called Emlyn Hughes International Soccer that me and my friend played on, I think it was Amiga, for a number of days before we realized that, because we thought it was a bit like non-responsive. But it turns out that we were playing it on the kind of management mode and weren't actually playing the game portion of it. So I mean, and when we did actually play it, we didn't like it as much.
Yeah.
But that's not quite the same, not quite what he was going for. So I haven't done a very good job of answering his question. But I can't think of anything that actually satisfies that. I tend not to go back to games that I played ages ago, basically. But,
I do.
Yeah, you're more likely to do that than me. I look forward, not backwards.
Mine are really kind of like childhood based, so it will be like we've spoken about this on the show, the port of Street Fighter 2 done by US Gold for the Amiga. I thought that was basically 1-to-1 of the arcade game, and then when I rewatched footage of it, I went, "Oh no, that's not good." There's that. There's there used to be, it still exists. There's a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers like hack and slash platformer on the Super Nintendo. I remember playing a bit of that and thinking it was like the best game ever. And then once I started getting into emulation, that was like one of the first games I put on my emulator and went, "Oh no, this is rubbish." This is like baby game. It's not great. Yeah, it's mainly like old stuff that I once thought was amazing. Jurassic Park: The Lost World on the Mega Drive is terrible.
I can't remember the name of the game. I think it was Enduro on the Atari 2600. It was one of the first driving games, and it had like different levels where you went through like fog and nighttime, and it was just literally like the exact same thing, except for they just like kind of just made the screen go black, basically, or grey, depending on what you're doing. And at the time, I thought it was amazing, and going back, it was absolutely terrible.
I'll do you one better, Tim. But because like you wouldn't think.
Oh, an Adventure. Adventure was terrible as well, and I remember that being brilliant.
Yeah, the one specifically talking about driving sims. Nigel Mansell's Formula One Racer, I think is the correct title of the game. And the only reason I say that because it sounds so like quiche and niche and kitschy and niche when you say it these days. But this was a game that had a huge campaign behind it, even so far as I believe it was a pack-in for Super Nintendos in the UK at one point. Rick Mail did an advert for it. It was a big deal at the time. It's not good. It never was. On any platform. Yeah. RoboCop 3 on the Amiga. It was a weird polygonal flying simulator where you're RoboCop in the jetpack, and I thought it was the dogs when I was a kid, and it is bad. It's really bad.
There's some really bad ports on the Amiga. Like, I love the Amiga 500, but it has some terrible ports. I don't think it's a port. I
think it's an Amiga game specifically.
Oh, okay.
But I think it was just because I went, ooh, look at the polygon. Like, look, it's 3D. This is amazing. I can't believe the Amiga can do such things. And then, no, it's actually a really bad game.
Early 3D games were terrible as well, basically.
Oh, yeah.
There's some real
Where did you learn how
bad
to fly?
ones.
Yeah, not great.
First Virtua Fighter doesn't stand up to going back to it either, but yeah.
Let's do one that I like. I've been sitting on this for a while.
Is it nice and warm?
We got one from the man they call Rick. Bear with me, Tim.
Okay.
Using the Kong family naming logic.
Yep.
Diddy is small. Funky is a cool boy.
Yep.
Donkey is hung like a Pleasure Beach steed.
Okay.
What would your Kong family names be?
Well, going by that, Donkey, apparently.
Fair
Talked
enough.
about me being a steed earlier in the show. That's all I'm saying. Still can't ride me, though, Coleman. Still can't ride me.
It's so basic, but Dan will be Dr. Kong just because A, he is a doctor, but two, I like the idea already. There is a Kong that wears a necktie just because.
Yep.
Dan gets like a doctor's coat and a stethoscope and the tie. Why not? He gets that.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, that's all right.
Dr. Kong.
Yeah.
I'll be Chaos Kong. Slappy Kong. One of those.
Slappy Kong sounds really wrong.
Slappy Kong. Yeah.
I think judging by my previous online moniker, I would go with Mighty Kong, because that kind of works.
Mighty Kong. I will call you Greyhead Kong. Slappy Kong and Greyhead Kong.
Yeah.
You could be like Kong twins. You got the grey one and the bald one. And it'd be like
Grandpa Kong.
The Sphinx cat, so they're all like shriveled up and weird looking.
Yeah.
It'd be like that, but a big ape. But he's all like skinny and weird underneath. And just a big punch belly.
The Sphinx cat is skinny and weird looking, yeah?
Well, yeah, because they got no fur on them, so they're just like...
I thought you meant like the big kind of statue thing and like the whole of like ancient Egypt. You were taking the piss out of there.
No, the hairless cats, the ones that look like Quado. Okay. You gotta give it some whiskers. It's like, open your mind. You know the cats, Tim.
Oh, right, yeah. It's
Quado
not what my
cats.
cat does, Coleman.
My favourite. Anywho. Those are questions. This has been a show, apparently.
Before we go, I've got some homework for you for next week, though, Coleman. I want you to check something out for me and see if it's any good.
Shave a cat.
Yeah, go shave a cat and try and stick it in your stomach. No, don't do that, people. Don't do that at home. Big Red Barrel does not condone the shaving of cats.
Open your mind.
Even if it does give you total recall. Anyway, right. No. Right. A bit of homework for next week, either you or from the listeners, possibly as well. But yeah, there's a game coming out to early access. It's called No Rest for the Wicked. It's coming out on the 1st of March. I believe it's coming to all consoles and stuff eventually, but it's coming to early access first, I believe. But it's made by the developers of Ori and the Blind Forest, which was games I always admired and liked the look of, but didn't particularly like the gameplay because I'm not into platformers. But they are making a kind of almost like a isometric Souls-like game, and it looks really interesting, and I'm really keen to see how it goes. Moon Studios, as in previous devs of Ori and the Blind Forest. But yeah, so let me know if you like that, if you can get hold of it, or if listeners can get hold of it.
So let me get this straight, Tim. Tim, the Mac owner.
Yeah.
The man who insists on having a Mac and not a PC.
Mm-hmm,
can't play a PC game.
Yes.
So you've set me homework by way of buy a game because you can't play it and play it on the week that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is out.
Okay, yeah. Well, we might have to extend
your homework, Tim.
We might have to extend that to listeners and viewers of the show rather
School's
than
out
yourself.
for the summer. I have my copy of Final
Yeah.
Fantasy VII Rebirth installed, and you best be believing I'm playing that all frickin' week. I cannot wait. I've been waiting for that. Well, I can wait because I have waited for this game. Now I have the game. I'm going to be playing this game. I'm going to edit this show as soon as possible. Sorry if it looks slapdash, but it's going to be done. And then I'm going to be playing that frickin' game as much as I possibly can.
Slapdash Kong, yeah?
Slappy Kong. All right. I'll go back to the outro. This has been episode 582 of BRB UK. Thank you very much for listening. Hopefully we get Dan back next week. I will be talking about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Tim will be talking about some old Anyway.
I've got a good game lined up for next week, so there you go. Interesting.
That's what I said.
Anyway.
All right. So until next week, dear listeners and viewers, I have been Slappy Kong.
I might have been Mighty Kong.
And until next time, dear listener viewers, and goodbye.
You and your ears are quite welcome for the podcasting goodness that you just heard. Why not roll on over to BigRedBarrel.com for more podcasts, news, reviews, and videos from the biggest, reddest site on the internet, BigRedBarrel.com.
It's a direct sequel to the story. Finish the first one, Tim.
I don't know when I'm going to fit that in before the release of the game, so
well,
you
what
won't.
you do, Tim? Okay, Tim.
I know,
okay,
it's in a week.
Here's a little tip. Here's a little tip. It's not a race. Just finish